Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the FAB Breakdown, and this week you notice the background's a little bit different. I'm actually on the road in Duluth, Georgia at Level Up Games, and I'm being joined by two people from the Card Guyz. I've been joined by Kyle and Alex. Thank you so much for joining us on the FAB Breakdown, where we're going to talk about your favorite subject, you guys. So,
okay. I'm all for it. This subject. Well, thank you first and foremost for even having us on this.
Absolutely,
it's an honor.
No, it is my pleasure. I really admire what you guys have done. I've actually been down here a couple of times. As you guys know, I'm friends with some people down here, so I love to come down. And I'm actually down here for the Farewell Welcome to Rathe event.
Looking forward to that.
Going to be taking place. Super stoked. And I wanted a chance to sit and talk with you guys a little bit about the Card Guyz. You guys have had a dominating presence on the competitive side of Flesh and Blood through 2021. So it just blows my mind. Not that you guys would, but that a team would be developed so quickly in this type of event. So where did you guys come from? Who are the Card Guyz? And let's just start layer by layer.
Well, first off, he and I went to high school together, first and foremost, and weirdly enough, we played video games together, and I came from YuGiOh, and I'd always flip my cards while we were playing in between rounds of like Call of Duty or Halo or something. He'd always ask me like, "What are you doing? I hear this noise."
I could hear it over the mic and drove me nuts. As somebody who has no idea with card games, like I collected cards as a kid, but like I'm not used to hearing cards coming from an adult or a teenage boy.
Yeah. And I play competitively, so in between rounds, I'd fishbowl hands, and he kind of caught on, came over, and then he sees all my cards, and then it kind of sparked his interest, and then from there we just started collecting, and it kind of blossomed from there. I did YouTube myself, and then he and I wanted to get into that together, and so one day he just said, "Why don't we just name it the Card Guyz?" And I looked at him, I'm like,
yeah, we were trying to come up with like are we gonna make this like a thing, and like coming up with names, and I was like, TCG, the Card Guyz, and I brought it to Kyle, and Kyle was like,
branding genius.
I was like, this is going to work.
We're going to run it. We're going to try this.
And so that was kind of like one of the initial runs of teams in YuGiOh when YuGiOh was really highly competitive. They started this whole team thing, and other teams started to develop, and then it actually got to the point where there were like team events like taking place on the side, and that kind of spurred from the whole team competition and everything. And of course, Magic has been doing this for a long time, but that wasn't really a thing in YuGiOh. So we kind of transitioned to that really easily over to the Flesh and Blood side of things, and it's been a lot of fun because I mean anybody in a team in a card game is going to be more successful than people that aren't in a team. That's just a fact. If you have minds to bounce ideas off of, and you're all shooting for the same goals, you're going to be more successful than the people that aren't around other minds that think alike and have the differing opinions to develop ideas and decks that other people might not have thought of, and I think that's what we really want.
Well, I mean, so Flesh and Blood wasn't your first venture in as a team. You guys come from a YuGiOh background.
That's right.
And that's fascinating because right now is a very hot time for YuGiOh.
Oh, it's mind-blowing, actually, what's been going on with that.
For the viewers that don't know, because you're here for Flesh and Blood, thank you, but was it Duel Masters?
Yeah. I think that's what it's called, Master Duel?
Master Duel, I think.
Master Duel, okay.
Potato.
But still, it is the top 5 continuous.
Yeah, it's
for the last week.
It's got the most
on Twitch.
Top 5 most concurrent viewers on Twitch, and esports organizations are addressing this and trying to see if they can convert this like Hearthstone or like Runeterra or something like that.
And some of the bigger streamers we've had interactions with, and actually used to be former teammates of ours on the Card Guyz. We had multiple national champions, multiple world competitors. And they're still a lot of them are still playing the game to this day. So
are we going to lose the Card Guyz back to YuGiOh? No. Okay.
That is testing the waters.
I'm just checking because it's going to be real awkward on the FAB Breakdown. Hey, we're making our announcement now. We're going back to YuGiOh. It's popular, so there's money in it.
There's a reason we switched games. And like he's played multiple card games, but I went from YuGiOh to Magic to now Flesh and Blood. And I think a lot of us Magic players are starting to make the switch and realizing how good the game is and where the competitive scene scene is headed,
Right.
And where the community is, because I'm always one that's been a huge fan of the community, because it's not much fun to play a card game, especially in person in the Flesh and Blood. Plug that for the camera.
See what you did there.
If the community's terrible. And we had a lot of issues with the Yu-Gi-Oh community, which kind of drives a lot of people away from that community. And then Magic has its own stigmas associated with it as well, which I won't go into. But Flesh and Blood, one of the things that everybody says when they come out of Flesh and Blood and their first experiences is the community is just top notch. It is the best card game community you can be involved in. Hands down.
It's been very refreshing.
I've been a part of 5 different card games in their community, and this is bar none the best. Everybody's so helpful. Everybody's graceful in defeat. You know, very rarely have I come across, even in the callings, people that were like wicked upset, you know, when they lost and like stormed out or threw their cards across or whatever it is, you know. Just this game, everybody wants to help everybody, and that's what makes a community thrive and grow.
For sure.
And I can't agree with you more. I know I sound like a sappy fanboy on social media when I'm like, I absolutely love the Flesh and Blood community, but it is the Flesh and Blood community that really makes this game leagues above other games.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I come from a competitive Magic background, and I transitioned into this during the pandemic. And I can't really put into words how welcoming the community has been to somebody who's making content, to somebody engaging on social media, or just going to a local store and playing. You guys were at, I believe, all the callings.
Yep.
You guys have done Road to Nationals.
Oh, that was a crazy season.
You guys have done Armory events, I'm sure.
Oh, plenty.
You guys have done special side events. You guys have put on your own events.
Yeah. Yep.
And all of that wrapped up into, I've never heard of a negative play experience story, and I couldn't go a weekend at other games, large events without having it. And it's the same. I personally prefer to play the smaller store events. So like Road to Nationals, I absolutely loved because it was competitive but casual.
Right.
Yeah.
It was fun. There were people laughing. There were people joking. I've never seen that in a game before.
Yeah. Right.
And I saw it here. And you know, I've come down here. I've played with you guys at a other store for an event.
You did.
And it was a blast. We had fun. I didn't win out. I may or may not have tripped, fallen, and gotten my face punched in by one individual on your team. I'm not going to mention names, Sebastian. On chain. Let's go figure.
Yeah.
You don't win that matchup. But you guys mentioned playing in the events and things like that. The callings. Vegas, Sebastian, in the finals. Dallas, NAM, wins it.
It was really surreal, honestly.
Okay, I was with you guys.
You were with us in Dallas.
I was.
And these are people, I mean, like for anybody at home that wants to learn the game, these aren't people that have years and years of card game experience and have played Flesh and Blood since the beginning. We brought both of them from another card game, taught them how to play this game. They started off terrible, and then
Sebastian needed help.
Then through playing as a group and through continuous playing, like day after day, week after week, in the Atlanta area, getting new players in, they just slowly started to develop into great players.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is because Flesh and Blood is so new, a lot of the players, I mean, go figure, everybody's new to the game, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so you don't know how good you are at the game until you got to a calling level. And so when they announced Vegas and we knew we were going to Vegas, we thought we were, some of the best players in the game. We knew
so we thought.
We knew our decks were good.
Yeah.
We knew we were going to do at least well, but how well we didn't know because we'd never, been in that competitive scene where people from across the country who have been playing in their play groups came together.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the true testament, having Nam get top 25 or whatever it was.
I think Nam got 25th and Sebastian got second.
And then you go straight into Dallas, which was a sealed event or a draft event, which we hadn't had one of those before. Nam comes in, first there, and
Sebastian lost his winning in for the top 64, but
right. I mean,
so it proved, that we do have a very strong presence, and we are players that can compete at that level.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm impressed because when I met you guys, I know you guys from being down here in Atlanta a couple of times, but I didn't know you guys as being like the best in the U.S. or strong, high-end competitive players, because the game doesn't, yes, the game is competitive, but the game doesn't focus just around that. Like some of the best content creators that are competitive are some of the nicest people I've ever had a conversation with. And I lump you guys into that category because you guys are making content on YouTube. You guys are active on social media. You just had a preview card for Everfest.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous, not gonna lie, but it's jealousy not of like, oh, why'd they get it? No, you guys deserve one. You guys put up the results, you have the records, and you guys are active in the community and community building, which is what this game is about and needs, and why the community is so good, because people are building this community from the ground up, and you guys are now forever, at least in the US, part of that history 2-3 years down the road. It will be the first US calling, second place, the Card Guyz. The second U.S. calling won by the Card Guyz. Like that is so impressive. And I hear you talking about a team. I personally don't have a team. I've got a couple guys that I test with that will remain nameless because they want to remain nameless.
Sure.
But I see your point of view. Like you really do. Like I wish I had a team where we could just get together and jam, and where we could really bounce ideas off of each other. I don't know that I'm not going to create one. I've worked with teams before in Magic, and I enjoy it. I think you're 100% right. You need a play group. You need other people with sets of eyes looking at what you're trying to do, what you're trying to brew. I don't know that everybody needs a team.
Right. Sure.
But if people want to do it, they should. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I will say from somebody who has helped promote a team before and help organize events for a team before, it's a lot of extra work. There's a lot of organizing behind the scenes that has to go on into play. There's a lot of strategizing, not just on the deck, but like, all right, when can everybody get together? When can we do X, Y, and Z? When is everybody getting there? Who's going this, especially if you have long distance travels, things of that nature.
It comes with its challenges for sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So my question for you guys, and I'm gonna wrap this up, and thank you again for your time, but you talk about having a team, you talk about community building. What is next or what's coming up for the Card Guyz? What do you guys have in the pipelines for that team, for the community building? You have YouTube, you have Twitter, you're doing stuff on Facebook as well, you're in the marketplace, I see that. The major events like the callings, you'll probably be at. I'm going to assume we're going to see some PTIs come out of the Card Guyz through the ProQuest season.
We've got 2 right now, so trying to lock in a few more.
A few more, getting to the Pro Tour whenever that announcement comes from LSS. Knowing my luck, I'm going to post this video and it'll be the same day. Right. So it's going to be dated. They're like, well, if you'd only waited a day. I didn't wait a day, viewer, sorry.
We have no idea when that's happening.
Right, but you guys, what outside of that, is there a way that fans can interact with you? Are there ways that fans can plug in and to a little bit of the knowledge? Are you guys doing anything like that currently, or will you be doing anything like that in the future?
Yeah, so we actually are in the works right now of launching our Patreon. And with that, we're going to have our whole team in there, and we're going to welcome in anybody that wants to learn. And I'm honestly all about player development, and I think Alex and I can attest to Sebastian's placements and how consistent he's been, and Nam as well. And I think we could take some of these players who want to get better, right? And we could develop them into the player they want to be for the competitive scene. And so that's kind of what we're going to do for our Patreon, is focus on the players who have the same foresight as us, getting better. And that's what more or less our Patreon's going to be about.
And I think that goes for all players too. It's important to know that, like, yes, we plan on going to the Callings and Nationals and Pro Tours and things like that. Yep. But there's a ton of people that just want to play Flesh and Blood and win the Cold Foil Armory promo at their local armory. And and it's as simple as that, right? Like, we're not going to just cater to the people that want to be first place national champion. Yeah. We want to cater to anybody that wants to learn the game, whether they've just started or whether they're an experienced player and they don't understand the ins and outs of certain, you know, interactions or whatever it is. They want to learn a new deck. They've never played a new deck before, but they've, you know, played Chain a million times and now they want to play something else. You know,
sure.
I think there's a lot to be said for development at any level in the game, and I think that's what we're going to aim for is you know, reviewing deck lists maybe for maybe some improvements and allowing people to have access to whatever player on the team maybe they want to have access to. Yeah. Maybe they're like, man, I really love, you know, Sebastian's take on his Prism deck or whatever. Maybe they want to, you know, pick his brain on how they could build their Prism deck, and then we can get them in a call and they can talk to each other, you know, and that can be a part of our Patreon program. But we're definitely planning on launching that very soon.
I can't wait. I will more than likely be a subscribing member. but I do want to ask one favor. Now, we didn't talk about this beforehand. We did talk about some things beforehand, viewer. This isn't all cold, but this one is out of left field because I just thought of it.
All right.
You're going to launch a Patreon where you're going to be offering some sort of coaching service to people at different tiers, depending on what it is. Okay, cool. Can you give one free piece of advice to the viewers on the FAB Breakdown? Something about improving their game. What would be your first piece of advice? I know.
I have a piece, but
go for it. I got one too.
Find you a numbers guy. FAB is all about numbers. Anybody that's come from any other game can tell you this. There's red, there's yellow, there's blue. But there's also cost of cards associated with that as well. So when building a deck, it's extremely important to make all of your hands as efficient as possible. And the only way to do that is to look at the numbers. I need to figure out the cost and the curve of my deck. I need to figure out how many reds, yellows, and blues are associated with that. And then you find the cards that are going to fit that niche. Or you figure out, I want to build an all-red deck. Of course, I don't need a bunch of blues in an all-red deck. That just doesn't make sense. But find you a guy that is either good at numbers or get good at numbers yourself, and that will improve your win percentage 1,000-fold, especially when brewing new decks and figuring out how to sideboard. Because a lot of people, when they sideboard incorrectly. They'll bring in too many reds in their Prism deck, and then their deck, you know, punishes them for having too many reds in the deck, and they didn't realize that, oh, I can't just bring in all my Sink Belows and Fate Foreseens and it be okay, because now I've got a 3-red hand and I can't do anything on my turn, you know. So if you can find the numbers and get better at that, you'll improve tenfold.
I think that's very solid advice for anybody looking at this game, because unlike other games, and I tried to explain this to a friend of mine, Flesh and Blood has multiple resources and a lot of them are hidden.
Right.
And what I mean by that, your life total is a resource. Yep. Those life points, you have to calculate when it's okay to take a hit, when you need to overblock, attack, break points. Yep. That is a resource that you can use as a commodity. If you're coming in with a 4, you're at a 2-card block if your opponent's trying not to allow bleed through. That's a resource. Cards in hand, a resource. We haven't even yet talked about the actual resource mechanic in the game, which is the pitch value, which is what you were talking about, or the cost of the card that you're wanting to play.
Many things to think about.
Right, so yes, I 100% agree. You either have to get good at numbers or know somebody who's good at numbers, or have somebody that can walk you through the basics of the kind of the rule of thumb. Like, if you're going for X number of blues in your deck because you have X number of cards that cost 3 or greater, you need X number of blues in order to do that. And you just start learning just those specific sets of numbers, as opposed to being able to actually do the math and figure out. You can get it further, but you're right. You can improve by 1,000% if you learn the numbers and understand every card in your deck, main deck and sideboard, should have a purpose, and should tie into your plan. That's my big piece of advice that I try to tell people. Make sure that when you're looking at building a deck or you're testing a deck, it's okay to try new things, but make sure you're not just putting something new in for the sake of putting something new in. And that's crucial advice, especially right now as we're in the Everfest spoiler season. I mean, it wraps up in a couple of days, but we're still getting new cards. And I thought as somebody who makes videos about Flesh and Blood, that it would be super easy during the season to just turn the camera on and talk about some new cards, and it's not. It is, there are so many cards out there, and it is, I mean, we don't have all of them yet, and yes, there's some cards where I'm just like, I can't believe they printed that, and immediately your mind goes, this is a Viscerai card. This is a Bolton card. You know, like 100%, you're just like, I know what deck this is going in. And that's awesome, because I've not been this excited about a set for any card game really since, I think, 2015. I think 2015 was the last time I was this excited about cards being announced, and that set was the original Modern Master set for Magic the Gathering.
Throwback.
Okay, but I'm saying, as they were spoiling cards for, I was like, oh, they reprinted that. You know, like losing Tarmogoyf. What? You know, like.
I was there for that. I remember.
I was too, and but I'm at that level of excitement for Everfest because everything that they're printing, some of it I look at and go, I don't see the point of that card, and then like the next day another card comes out, I'm like, that one makes sense now. This is gonna be insane. And the fact that they're showing love to Blitz heroes specifically.
Oh, the Benji cards are awesome.
The Benji card, the Benji cards are amazing. KO's card, we're gonna start seeing a lot of KO, I think, in Blitz.
I'm looking forward to it.
Get your gambler's gloves out, people.
It's gonna be, you're now gonna have 5 dedicated Blitz spots in every deck, 4 for Nullrune, because you're gonna need it, and 1 for gambler's gloves. I hope the rest of your equipment fits in there, because otherwise it's gonna be a rough and bumpy ride. But
I have one piece of advice I wanna say to get better at the game. And this has stemmed from multiple friends who's given me this advice. And I've actually told this to Sebastian. I've actually told this to Nam as well. And I think they've all taken it to heart, is stay open-minded and respect everyone's perspective. And I feel like if I look at you and say, hey, I think X, Y, and Z could have been different, this is how Sebastian and I worked on the chain deck a lot, was fishbowling, but going to him and saying, you know, I think X, Y, and Z could have been different. And then him telling me at first, no, this is the best play. And then him going out and reworking the entire hand and like all his banished stuff. And then he optimizes like 7 more damage. And so if people are willing to stay open-minded and see someone else's perspective, they're going to grow infinitely in this game.
Yeah, no,
so much knowledge.
And that's the thing about this community, unlike other communities I've come from, people are willing. If you take a bad beating or if you give a bad beating, people are willing to sit and talk to you after the game if you make the time. Like I think I've only had 1 negative play experience, and it was me that created it because my back went out in Vegas round 1, and I just wanted to be done with the round 1 match. I couldn't continue. I was sitting there pouring sweat and shaking. I was in an immense amount of pain, and I apologized to the person the next day, I believe, because I was just like, I am so sorry that I played you round 1 and then immediately dropped. I was in so much pain, and they're like, I'm just glad you're okay. I mean, I didn't mean to do that, but obviously you don't go to Vegas to play in a calling and then just like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather my back. I'd rather my back go out and not play. So, but no, that is absolutely awesome advice, to keep an open mind, to take advice, it doesn't hurt to try something. If you had been wrong, and his line produced the most amount of damage, you're like, no, okay, I was wrong. It looked different to me. Thanks for going through it. Now you both know. And if you're right, oh wow, look, if this line ever comes up again, I'm up 7 damage.
Like for example, we were at a Road to Nationals, and now a teammate of ours, Nathan Crawford, was watching some of Sebastian's matches, and he was telling me what he would do in a certain scenario, and Sebastian, like I said, would produce like 6, 7 more damage. He's like, whoa. And so then he went back to the drawing board, and it made Nathan a better player. And then Nathan went and won an RTN with, you know, the chain deck. And he attributed a lot of it to Sebastian learning the different lines of play Sebastian took. So I think that's a prime example of it right there. Is that exactly?
Before we recorded this, I did say that Prism is a hero that I want to learn. Yeah. And I know Alex is very strong with Prism and has played Prism. And the first thing I asked is, would you be willing to teach me Prism? And it wasn't trying to put you on the spot. It's because I understand I'm weak with that hero. Yeah. So I want to seek out somebody who has played that hero, that's had success with that hero. So there's things I don't know, but there may be something that I picked up from a match when Prism just hurt me that I can be like, oh, well, I had somebody do this. Is that a viable line? And get the why yes, why no, and keep an open mind. You don't learn if you think you know everything.
For sure.
And so I think on the same topic, there's something that always like resonated with me coming from Magic to this game is after you lose a Magic game, a lot of the times you were like, I got stuck on one land and I never could play the game. Or I drew 8 lands in the middle of the game and I just lost even though I was in a winning position. There are many games in Magic like that. And anytime I'm trying to teach this game to somebody, I'm like, after every game, I got to play every game. I'm not just drawing dead the entire game, especially when your deck is like Prism, where all of the cards do something. Yeah. Like, there's always a line of play where you could have probably done better at some point in the match. And so when you do get to that end of the game scenario, and you're talking to your opponent after the match, a lot of it in Magic I found was complaining about not drawing a certain card, or not doing this, or not. It was things that didn't happen. Where in this game, it's about I didn't do something. Like,
it's your fault if you lose.
I felt like there was a line in the middle that lost me the game, or I didn't attack your Genesis one turn when I needed to attack. Like, there's always something that comes up where it's like, yeah, I probably could have played that better. And that is like speaks volumes for a game, in my opinion, where you can always play a game and then have a learning experience pretty much from every loss.
Yeah. When you can go back and see that point in your mind's eye. Like in Magic, I got to the point where I could see where I may have missequenced something or played something wrong, but it was hard to pinpoint because there were variables. Did I not draw the land? Did I not set myself up for the best success? Did I hit 5 lands in a row playing burn and just like anything but a land, go, you know, like, and that happens, you're not wrong. But in this game, the first thing I noticed, the first time I lost a game, was I know exactly where I messed up.
Yeah. Yep.
And it may not have been the turn I lost. Normally it's not. Normally it's 4 or 5 turns before when the momentum shifted and I was unable to capitalize on something, or I could have blocked more efficiently when I lost momentum as opposed to trying to get momentum back and not in a good trading spot. I was at a disadvantage. You know, there's so much to this game that I love. But I thank you guys. You sold me. Your coaching advice is great. I already feel like I'm 1,000 times better because I know some principles to go by. Definitely, if you haven't checked out the Card Guyz, check them out on YouTube. Check them out on Twitch. Check them, or you're on Twitch, correct?
I think we stream on YouTube.
We stream on YouTube.
Sorry. Check them out on YouTube. Check them out on Twitter. And make sure that you guys, if you're interested, take a look at their Patreon, because honestly, there's a lot of collective knowledge between you and
it's like 6 or
Nam
7,
and Sebastian and everybody really on the team is bringing something to the team. You don't have people on the team just because of a namesake. They're producing, and I thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate you sitting down with us and going through who the Card Guyz are and how we can connect. So thank you guys very much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Remember, friends, when it comes to collecting, storing, or displaying your hobbies or collectibles, BCW has you covered. Until next time, this is Rick with the FAB Breakdown, and we'll see you in the next video.